Okay, welcome back. We're almost done. This video is going to be about the pre-flight checklist. I'm doing it in my shop because it's 36 degrees and freezing drizzle out there. And so I'm not going flying today. So the three pre-flight checklists are pre-flighting the transmitter, pre-flighting the airplane, and fueling the aircraft. Those are the three things you do before you get ready to go fly. Later on, you're going to see, as a part of the maiden flights, the starting of the airplane, the engine break-in, and the maiden flights that'll occur whenever the weather's good. Okay, so first things first, pre-flighting the transmitter. All right. So the first thing you have to do is, before I turn it on, I verify all the switches. And what that means to me, all the switches are in the position 0, which is usually the down position. So all these switches are down, and the throttle is all the way down. Obviously that one's centered. So then the next step is to turn the radio on and listen for any warnings. Good, no warnings. Next thing is to verify the battery level. It's 8.3, nice and charged. And you verify the name of the model selected. It's number 26 Kadet LT-40, which is what we're going to fly. Then you verify all the trim settings. As you can see, all the trims are neutral because we haven't done anything with them yet, and the throttle trim is 0. And the next thing is to verify the launch mode. Launch mode is
cruise mode, launch mode.
Launch mode. And then the last thing on the pre-flight of the transmitter is to set the throttle trim. And to set the throttle trim, I usually go to the middle position. So you can see that the throttle trim there is now, I'll pull it down a little bit. And you might not be able to see it that way. Okay, so I'll pull the throttle trim down a little, and when you hear it hit the middle, it has that high beep on it. So that's the middle throttle trim, and it says 0. Okay, so that's now pre-flighted. Now we'll go over the airplane and pre-flight the airplane. Be right back. Okay, I'm back here behind the camera, and the aircraft is on a stand that I use at the field. This is called the Ernst Ultra Stand, and it's a great little plastic stand, very well made, very well constructed, and I use these at the field to pre-flight my aircraft with. Excuse me. Okay, so the first thing to do is to verify that the battery is velcroed down and is tight, and you got to make sure that the lead is connected. So I'll connect the lead. This is the battery to the from the receiver, and we'll do black to black here and plug that in. Okay, so the battery is now plugged in and it's velcroed down and tight. The next thing to do is check the battery voltage. So I will get out the from my tote bag, I'll get out the battery voltage checker and check it. Black to black, plug it in. And 6.91, that's not bad. Yesterday when we recharged batteries, it was 7.15, so it lost a little bit. So from 7.15 down to 6.91, that's not too bad. Okay, so the battery is good. Okay, the next thing to do is check the receivers and their antennae. So you got two receivers here. You got this regular receiver with its satellite antenna down there, looks in good shape. Then you got the telemetry module here with its antenna, and I sort of run that to the front and make sure that it's sitting there okay. And the next thing to do is I open a hatch and make sure everything looks good in there. My checklist says check for leaks. Well, we haven't filled it yet, so there aren't any leaks, which is good. But we'll be fixing that in just a minute. Okay, so that's it. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, up here at the engine, several things to check. First thing is check the tubes. That tube is tight. This tube is tight, and the fuel tubing down here we'll pull out and verify in a minute. But that looks okay. The engine bolts, meaning like the bolts here and the mounting bolts and all, because they're thread locked or locked in real good, I'm not going to actually test to make sure they're tight, because that might break the thread lock.
System idle.
Okay. Guess I was delayed a little there. Alright, so the only thing I will check is the this up here, the bolt for the spinner is not thread locked yet, so I'm going to just make sure it's good and tight. Other than that, I'm going to just do a general inspection of the muffler. And muffler looks good, the tube here looks good, and it's nice and tight. Okay, move the camera around to the front of the engine here so you can check the engine throttle clevis there. It looks good. The other thing I also check on a pre-flight check is the position of the needle valve. 6 o'clock, we haven't messed with it yet, but you always check that in a pre-flight. Okay, next thing I'm going to check is the general covering of the aircraft. Make sure all the covering looks good. No loose covering yet, and normally I end that by turning the aircraft upside down. And I also note at the same time that the weights back here are still attached. And next I'll check the gear, the nose wheel. These two are not Loctite, so I'm just going to test them a little bit here, see how tight they are. Yep. Okay. Yep, they're in good shape. The locking collars are all Loctite, so I'm not going to worry about those. Wheels are spinning well. All the aircraft is upside down. I'm going to check the elevator. It looks in good shape. Leading edge of the stabs are good, and the elevator clevis is good and tight with its fuel in position. Fuel tubing in position. Turn it right side up, and then check the rudder. Rudder leading edge looks good. This looks good and tight, and the fuel tubing on the clevis looks good. So everything looks good on those three things. Okay, time to check the wings. First thing I'm going to do is get the wing bolts and washers out. And I just put them in the bottom of the stand there, because it's a great place to put stuff like that. Check each wing. Throttle looks good. The servo looks good. The clevis looks good. Leading edge looks good. The other wing, servo looks good. Clevis looks good. Leading edge looks good. Ailerons all look good. Okay, next we'll go ahead and assemble it. Got the fuel tube out of the tote bag. So we'll stick that in one side. Stick Stick the other wing in. Okay. Make sure that the little dowel pin there is in the right spot. And then I like to turn it upside down on the surface like this, with the leading edge back toward the tail, and it balances nicely, and you can plug the two servo leads in, blue to blue, easy to see, white to white, with black to black leads. So black to black, black to black, and the blues and the whites are connected. I just stuff those down into the middle compartment, because the middle compartment is where they go. And I'll just put that leading edge in place there. And then I'll peek underneath here and make sure there's no wires that are going to try to stick out, and press that down in, and we'll screw on the bolts. Okay, front's locked in. I left a little black dot back here when we built it to make sure that the center of the wing is on the center of the fuselage. And so it is. I like to hold this down with my index finger of my left hand. I screw these in place. And these are finger tight. You can hear them dig in a little bit. They don't need to be too tight because you don't want to bust them off. So the wing is in place. Okay, radio is still on. I'm going to turn the aircraft on by reaching around underneath and pulling it out, switch out. And first thing, as I always do, is check the control surface movement. So aileron to the right, right aileron is up, left aileron is down. So up, left, up. Elevator back, and that is up, and rudder to the right, and that's to the right. So up, up, right. Control surface movements are verified. And that's it for the pre-flight. So I'll turn the aircraft off, turn the radio off, and I'm going to come around here and turn the camera off, and the next thing will be fueling. Okay, so here we are ready to fuel the aircraft. First thing I'm going to do is take my forceps and clip the fuel line just in front of the nipple on the engine. That's to prevent any fuel from going into the engine while I'm filling it. I'm going to pull out the green line and connect it to the filler nozzle, and then I'm going to take my overflow tank, pull off the line from the muffler, and put it on the overflow tank. Okay, so the overflow tank is hanging there, and I don't always do this, but every once in a while I'll count how many cranks it takes to fill the engine. I'm not going to do that this time. Okay, tank is about half full, coming up on full, so I'm slowing down my cranking. Getting full, getting full, getting full. Okay, overflow tank has some green in it. You can see the, let me see, can you see the green? Yeah, you can see the green in the overflow tank, so that's a little too much. So I'm going to back that back out. So the overflow tank is empty, and we've got a full tank. So the next thing to do is to, I can take this off. Guess I'll take it off with the other hand. And I usually clip this to prevent that fuel tank or fuel tubing from leaking anything out, because that tube is on the bottom of the tank and it's hanging down, so it might leak out if I don't. And then I'll stick that back in there. Okay. And then I can crank this backwards, make sure the line is empty. And get back in there. Then I'll take the orange line off the overflow bottle. Oh, that was easier said than done. Okay, that'll loosen up later. Let me find a different fuel probe. There's a different fuel probe that doesn't have that nipple on it, and I might try to find a better fuel probe. Good fuel probes like this are like that. Okay, this one has a nipple on it, and I'll see if I can find a different fuel probe like that. So I think we're done fueling the airplane. Now, I won't go through it on film, but there'll be a video later after your post-flight, after you're done for the day, how to empty the tank and get the fuel out of the engine tube. But that's for another video.